Welcome everybody to our Ngā Mānukanuka Iwi Committee meeting, the first of 2025. Lovely to see you all here. And I would just like to invite Mātua Matt to open us with a karakia, please.
Kia ora. Nōrere te atua ka hara e tuwiraka o mātou nākau kata kia koe mōhia no koe ki nā hia o tēnā mātou. E kore hoki anō rika te mea huna, whakahainei ho tau wairua tapu ki roto i o mātou nākau ki roto i o mātou whakaara. Kia pono tōnei tō mātou roto kia koe ki te kai te whakanui tō i nā tapu, a ko koe no koe prei tō mātou e ki. Amen.
Amen. Nā mihi. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and is live streamed on Council's Facebook page. First up, we have apologies from Councillor McGrath, Councillor Crown and Crystal Haimona. I could have a mover in it. Thank you, Deputy Brosnan, seconded by, I can't read anything at the moment. My eyes are still asleep. So seconded by Kirk. Thank you very much for that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against and carried. Are there any conflicts of interest? No. There are no announcements by myself, but I would like to invite Morihu to introduce our new committee representatives.
Tēnā tata katoa i hui mana ki tēnei rangi. So tēnei wā, he pāta atu kia korua nā me mahau o tēnei komiti. Katu mai i te ko te pepeha e whanaungatanga i a tātou. Kia ora korua, Darren?
Kia ora tātou. Ko tātara ki te maunga, ko tūtākuri te awa, ko te hongi o te ikawera e manaki kai, ko hauti ana noi, ko te whare tupuna, ko wāhuki marae. Ko Darren Tari ahau. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Morena koutou, ko Mara Andrews taku ingoa no Ngati Kaungunu me te whakatoi ahau. Engari, kei te noho au ki te rohe o Tūwharetō ki Taupō. I got allocated from Maungaharuru Trust, where I'm a trustee, to sit on this committee. So it's my first hui, so I'll probably just listen today and see what I should be doing. So I'll take guidance from all the other experts at the table. I grew up here in Napier in Maraenui. My mother still lives in Maraenui, and spent my whole life schooled here right through to Napier Girls, and then left town, went to Wellington and keep circling back. But yeah, for me, this is home. Kia ora.
Kia ora, welcome. Thank you both for introducing yourselves. Are there any minor matters not on the agenda? No? Announcements by management. I believe we do have a couple. No?
No.
Okay. Easy. Moving on.
So just for clarity, Your Worship, those announcements were made at the pre-agenda.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on Wednesday the 13th of November. If I could have a mover and seconder of people who were, thank you, Paubev, and seconded Councillor Price. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Excellent. So we will launch into our agenda items, and I can see Stephen Furness there ready and waiting with great enthusiasm for an update on our Reimagine Facilities review. So I'll hand over to you to present. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, ko Steve Gregory taku ingoa, ko ahau te Manager Business and Tourism o te Kunihira o Ahariri, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So the purpose of this paper is to give you an update on our significant review that we're having, we're reimagining a number of our facilities, which is all part of a whole business review on a large number of the community services facilities. So I'm going to take you back a little bit on the journey to give you context of where we are now. So community services, Napier City Council manages, as we all know, a large number of facilities, whether it's sport and rec, tourism, and community facilities. And a large number of these were or are revenue generating. And look, over the COVID years, over the Napier 2020 floods, over Cyclone Gabrielle, these assets, these facilities have taken a hit. And they've taken a hit from a financial perspective, and it's really broadened our thinking of how can these facilities, how can these assets be more sustainable and not be so much of a burden on our ratepayer. Granting that we are a tourist city, it's one of our key strategic priorities is to be a great visitor destination. So it's how do we enhance what we deliver, how do we attract, and the vibrancy of our city. And the unfortunate cold hard reality is a number of these facilities were not achieving their funding policy. And so 2 years ago, Furnace and I said we really need to put the scrutiny on these facilities. So back in May 2023, we started our business review. And it didn't take long once we got started that we were being very ambitious. You don't do a review of a large scale like this very often, so you could argue that this is a once in a generation review on what the future of our city will look like. So we started the business review, and because of the scale of it, we've broken this down into 3 phases. Phase 1 was to really get a real sense of what is the commercial viability on all of these business activities. And part of that phase 1, if they're not commercial, how best do we group these facilities that is visible for our community, visible internally, that will then give us scope and direction on how best to manage them. So as we've got in the paper, through phase 1, we found out which facilities had commercial opportunity. We identified which facilities were our hard community facilities. And then we looked at facilities that we really needed to have a look at. So we've classified those as reimagining. Whether it was status quo, whether it was in their own current capacity, could they be reimagined to something more efficient? Or do we take this as an opportunity to look at something totally different? So phase 1 has been completed. Our community facilities through that process was Napier Municipal Theatre and Baysgate. So those 2 facilities got put into the new portfolio Arts, Culture and Heritage as of May 2024. Our commercial facilities, so Napier Conference and Events, based here in the War Memorial, Kennedy Park Resort and Ocean Spa were put into the commercial portfolio, and as of 1 July 2024, their task was within 3 years to hit the break-even point, generate a net profit, and give back to the community in the way that they wouldn't be a rates burden and they'd support the organisation keeping rates down. And then we've got the reimagined facilities. The reimagined facilities are McLean Park, National Aquarium of New Zealand, Napier Aquatic Centre, Napier Eyesight, Pātū Mini Golf, and the Faraday Museum was brought in at a late stage purely to benefit from the whole process. And so we started off with McLean Park because just before we kicked off the review, we were starting on a McLean Park strategy. But we paused that, or stopped that there, say, and included that into the whole business review. So we started the McLean Park in May last year, and we wrapped that up August, September last year, and then September, October, we commenced with the aquarium, Faraday Museum, Napier Eyesight, and Pātū Mini Golf. The Napier Aquatic Centre has been classed as a reimagining facility, but we made the call to invest the 4.4 million in remediating it to extend its life for another 10 to 12 years. And on a quick side note, that is going extremely well. It's ahead of time and ahead of budget. And that asset is delivering for our community in so many ways. So that's fantastic. So we're working through the reimagining. We are presenting to council on the 20th concept options. So throughout the whole process, for each of these activities, we've workshopped with staff, workshopped with elected members and ELT on ranges of concept options of what these assets, what these activities could or should look like in the future, and ultimately to put out to our community through the annual plan process to consult on. And once we've got firmed up options, to then go back to council to seek to go to a business case to really throw the kitchen sink at to test those preferred options and move forward from there. So to give you a quick insight into the reimagining process, as you can imagine, when you're sort of reimagining, you think you can start from a blank canvas, or you get all excited, think, oh, I can think up crazy new ideas with McLean Park. Why don't we build a brand new stadium or do this, do that? We don't have that. That's the whole purpose of what we're doing here, is trying to be financially sustainable. So perimeters was a really good discipline at almost putting a boundary, a cricket fence, a boundary within each asset that we can work within. So we avoid the blue sky thinking, to avoid the unaffordable dream, let's put a roof over McLean Park. You know, that's what the perimeter setting effectively was for each of the activities. So as we worked through the reimagining, the concept designs, we had some boundaries and something to really measure us what we're operating within. So we had the perimeters, and then it was down to the workshops and working up these options. And look, for all of the activities, status quo is still going to be considered and tested to the community and tested through a business case process. We have decided that status quo is not an option with the aquarium, purely because status quo is going to be a significant burden on the ratepayer, on the community in the way of cost. The future remedial cost on the aquarium it's that significant that it's just. And this has come from internally, all our staff at the aquarium, as well as our elected members. So yes, here we are. We're ahead of schedule. We're making good progress. McLean Park is well versed. We have had to speed things up to try and fit in through the annual plan dates. Just so we can get some consultation and direction from our community. But our consultants, Visitor Solutions, are still working through the process that they had done with McLean Park in tandem, in parallel. So we're not missing anything. We're not falling down anywhere. We're still doing a very robust process. It is a long process. We are talking about the future of our city here. We're talking about our people, our staff, our community, so we want to do this right. And something that Thunis and I have really made a commitment is we want to do this once and do it right. We don't want to have to do a review on any of these facilities in 5 years' time, for example. So now's the time to lay all the cards on the table, to throw the kitchen sink at what is best for these business activities and what is best for our community. Anything further, Venus, from your perspective?
You've given a good update and the background, so it's over to the committee for questions.
Thank you very much. He has a very good update, and it's certainly a interesting and comprehensive review and work program that we are navigating around these council-owned facilities. So I'll open up to the committee for any questions that they may have.
Through you, Madam Chair. And Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. You too.
I like the word reimagine, especially for mana whenua, when we can reimagine McLean Park. Are you open for those things of thoughts and from mana whenua to reimagine McLean Park? So just around the naming, we know that it's legislative, and so, you know, this conversation, this actual, the park has been in our minds for a very long time, even through the settlements, especially the settlements. So if there's an opportunity for mana whenua to come to the meetings to talk about a name change, could that be a possibility?
I mean, anything is possible. We will this, but as you will know that we will bring that then back to council for a decision. And yes, there is the opportunities. We will up till now we haven't had as many meetings with mana whenua as we would have liked, because in the beginning of this process, I had a very good meeting. For me, it was a good meeting with Paris and also with Matt. And what we discussed was, you know, I brought them up to speed with what are we planning and what do we want to do. And we came very quickly to the point of, so where can we get involved? But we weren't even near to this space yet. So what we did talk about was that we will get more involvement through the business case process, because that's where we will look at the options. So we'll have the preferred option from council, and then we'll have other options that will be measured to see what's going to be the best option. And then we will have more involvement of different partners. You know, partners will then be brought into these discussions as well. And, you know, and part of that could then also be the naming. And I know there was a meeting with Maru, was at that meeting, and he made it very clear when we were looking at our partners and, you know, and other affected parties, especially around McLean Park, that was mentioned, that was brought to our attention.
Thank you.
So I guess it's also gaining an understanding from a legal perspective as to what the process would look like to...
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And is that sort of earmarked as part of the McLean Park Reimagine to further investigate how we would work through a process of renaming if that became part of the overall project?
I think that when we look at, the short answer is yes.
Excellent.
Let me stop there.
Thank you.
Yes, there is a process that we need to follow, and yeah, we will go through that. Looking at renaming will be discussed, yes.
Through the perimeter setting, one of the perimeters was not to change the purpose of the activity, and that's for recreation to our community. It's to change the purpose of, you know, it's a whole act change, and changing acts or purposes of acts can take up to 10 years. So of course, anything is possible through the business case process. You're a partner, so of course you'll be at the table to support and be part of the process.
I don't
Full
think we
commitment
want to
with that.
change the purpose of it. I think it's just the naming.
Correct. Yep.
That's
Yep,
the main
that's what
focus, is just the naming, but its purpose. Yeah, no, I don't think we wanted to do that, because it's it's viable,
Yeah.
what its purpose is for the whole of the community.
Yeah, and look, through the stakeholder process, you know, the meeting that we had with mana whenua in early September, that was brought to our attention. Yeah, there will be a full, robust process.
And I think some further sort of comments around the purpose it has primarily been a sports and recreation facility, but certainly through this reimagine process, we would love to see it being utilised for more cultural events, kapahaka, and more community-wide, whānau-focused events, because it's so underutilised and it's such an incredible space that our community could be enjoying a lot more than they currently are. So that's quite exciting.
And in that kapahaka space, thank you, Madam Mayor, in the kapahaka space, there's more and more teams that will come on board knowing the fact that that park, that we have a significant, made a significant change. And I know that our Māori communities will come on board big time. So,
And look, through the stakeholder, I don't think there was one stakeholder that had, well, they all had the same theme, that is, we're not telling our story through McLean Park. It's, to put it quite bluntly, it's just another stadium. And I know I'm born and bred in Hawke's Bay. I mean, I've grown up going to McLean Park, like many of you in this room. It's a big part of my life. But when you reflect on it, it doesn't tell our story through the asset and as you walk through those gates. Yeah, so it's a big part of reimagining McLean Park.
Thank you.
Kia ora, through the chair. Tēnei te mihi a tēnei kia korua. I think this is some exciting times for us. It's about having our input as well. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to be able to do that. I like the word reimagine because it's got inclusiveness about it, and which is important to us as a culture. And we could maybe implement some of that, and we'd like to have that opportunity. The aquarium, some of the opportunities there that could be faced, just a bit of inclusion about things. We're in Pānea. This is about Pānea. This is Tangaroa. We've got some stories to be able to tell and some input that we may be able to help with the tourism side of things and that to help promote Napier as a better place, as McLean Park, and just a small change in a name can make a big difference for us, for our culture, and help enhance the face of it, without changing the kaupapa of it. And some of these other ones that are in there. So there's some great opportunities if we take the time to have a little bit of inclusiveness and implement of our culture with us. So thank you for this report, and thank you for your mahi. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
through you, Madam Chair, I want to get some specifics now. And you started around the COVID and all the events that happened and struck while we came financially not sustainable through that period. I just want to ask about the data that came through over that certain time, because you're doing the feasibility. We have done a business case, now you're going into a feasibility, is that right?
No, so the next phase is the business cases. So we're
Right.
going to consult, or we're going to take a paper to Council on the 20th of February with our recommendations of the preferred options for each activity. And hypothetically, if that gets approved, then we put those to the community through the annual plan process. Once we get direction from there, we will then put that on a paper to Council to request going through to business cases for each activity.
In terms of the financial side of things, what was the loss? Can you give me a ball figure?
An operating loss, a net loss. I think from memory, we're looking at about 5 to 7 million loss.
Wow, it's huge for our area.
It's significant.
It's very huge for our area because we're such a tourism area.
Yeah, I mean, from a net position, it's not good. But I want you guys to know that these activities are still attracting people in many ways in record numbers. So we are still seeing growth with our revenue. But the challenge as officers is we need to stand the tide on expenses. We need to look at our operations where we can find efficiencies. So those are the things that keep Thunis and I up at night, is how best are we going to do that. But these teams are working as hard as they can to bring people to each of the activities, save costs, and I just want to give you guys confidence that officers, through corporate services, community, there's resource being thrown at this to try and find efficiencies.
Madam Chair, through you, just to add to what Steve has said, is that most of our facilities also have a social value. So it's not all just about economics. There are certain facilities that no business will touch. If you look at museums and libraries and swimming pools and those type of stuff, especially community pools, I'm talking about, they are really difficult because nobody's going to make money out of them, but they do make up a city. It's what the community need and what they want. The other thing to keep in mind is that these facilities also contribute to our economic multiplier. It's people coming in and spending money, and they've got places to go, and so they don't just stay one night, but they stay 2 or hopefully 3 nights, because there's so much more to do. So just wanting to add that from a value viewpoint, we tend to go only to the finances, but there is another value or other values of cultural and social value.
Thank you.
I think that's a really important point, Thunis, and there is the social and community element that has to be considered. And for some of the facilities in particular, such as the Nature Aquatic Centre, which is our primary community pool, that will never become a fully commercial property because we want to keep it accessible to all of our communities. So there will always be an element of it being ratepayer funded. However, some of the more tourist, focused facilities, those are the ones that we would like to be able to get to a position where our locals aren't having to subsidise it in some way. But we do always still want to be able to provide really fantastic experiences for our local whānau as well. So, yeah. Okay, any further questions?
Sorry, can
Maya.
I wasn't intending to speak today, but I was also representing MTT on the future development strategy work with Hastings. And I'm thinking about that FDS is, planning for future residential growth and all sorts of stuff and, housing development and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just wondering what there's 2 things. One is the consultants that worked on that did quite extensive engagement with PSGs and iwi in the process before they came up with solutions to present to councils. And secondly, has that planned future residential growth, because these facilities aren't just used by tourists, they're used by residents. So if our resident population is expected to grow, how has this project taken account of population growth and, expansion and residential development so that they cater for that growth? Like, are these 2 projects intersecting in any way?
What we will be doing is that we will be using that information through our business case setting for our facilities, because we are also working towards a master plan for the Marine Parade. That will also help set the scene, because there is a master plan for the Marine Parade, but that was done, I think, 10 years ago, or quite long before I came here. But so we are looking at, how that will affect the Marine Parade as well and the city. And then the future development strategy information will be part of that, and to take that into consideration, yes.
Thank you. So the other question of, does this committee have a voice on the preferred option that you present to council, or is that not in scope of this committee?
At this stage, what we've done is to take this process, had to go through the council process for the full council to make that call or to put their preferred option forward. What we're doing today, it is part of bringing the committee up to speed with where we're at. And as we said, that through the business case development, we will bring it back to this committee as well.
But by then, the preferred option's already been decided.
Yeah, but keep in mind
Is that right?
that preferred option is what council is putting forward with,
Yeah.
let's call it the 80-20 rule. You know, we've got 80% of the information. And what we need to do now is that council had to set that so that we can also think about our annual plan and what's going to happen further with the long-term plan. But we also, council needed to set their parameters and their idea that's going out to the public to then choose, or the public to say, well, do they agree or not? So that will be one of the maybe 3 or 4 options that will be worked through the business case process. And this is where our partners then come in, and this committee as well, where we then can have those discussions. Does it make sense? It's
Yeah,
just
it
part
does.
of a process that we have to go through.
It does. My only concern, and then I'll shut up, is that when you're presenting options, once council or, decision makers choose an option, it's kind of, the horse has already left the stall then.
Yep.
So where does this voice at this table actually get to say, yeah, and we total all that option?
Yeah.
We've looked at the options too, and we agree with that option that you're putting forward. If the option's already gone and the council's already decided on the option, we're then in the consultation process with everybody else. Is that?
Just to
I'm
keep-
sorry, I'm just trying to
No,
clarify
I hear
the
what you're saying.
sequence.
Yep, I understand what you're saying. And keep in mind that this is the first, it's the first layer of us trying to just get some idea of what's council's feeling. What does council think they want to take forward? Now, as I said, this option is a preferred option, and it stays an option. So this will go through the decision process for the annual plan by the 26th of June. And then after that, we then start a new process. So that's the next stage. And this is then the business case process. And then we will set, that will be the first option, but then there will be other options also developed. Because as I said, we don't have all the information yet. We've got 80% of it. But now we need to really do the business cases so that is it going to be financially viable? We could come back to council and say, your option that you've chosen, it's not viable. We can't do that. But we can do the following. So that process will be then, and then we will be coming to this committee as well to then work that through with you, and you can then see where we're at with our options and what are we taking back to council.
Just through the chair, he tāpari atu tēnei, just to carry on what just one thing. It's the journey that we'll be we're on, and Ngā Mānukanuka Tiwi will be part of the journey.
Yes.
And making sure that we come back.
Yeah, so I guess where we're at now are very, very high level, absolutely no detail concepts, which as a group of councillors we have worked through. And there's no decisions made whatsoever. There's not really any great level of detail in the options we've looked at. We are required legislatively when we go out for consultation to put forward a preferred option. It's not that we've made a decision, it's that that's what we're required to do. And we will still do, as Thuna said, the business case will include potentially 3 or 4 options, and Ngā Mānukanuka iwi will be working with us through that whole process. And I guess if we compare it potentially to the Tiaka project, which was a full code design project with Whenua, and there were, at that very beginning stages, when it was all very high level, that is just one very small part of it. But the minute that there's any actual decision making and we move into any sort of design process, that is absolutely when we would be working in full partnership every step of the way. And Hilary's in the back there, who has been involved in the Tiaka project. And it is a true commitment to co-design and to ensuring that mana whenua are involved in every single gateway.
Just carrying on through you, Madam Chair, just carrying on from Mara's conversation, I just want to clarify, Steve, Thunis, when you talk about council, are you talking about the councillors and their constituents, or are you just talking about the councillors?
Are we talking about, are you asking the
Councillors.
question out of who
Elected
made the
members.
decision?
Elected members.
Yeah, it's elected members.
Right.
That's what I'm talking
So
about.
it's just elected members without consultation with their constituents, just there, just
Just the councillors. We are now going out for consultation.
Thank you.
So after council's, yeah. So after the 20th, or in the, I think it was in April, was March, April, we're going out
Yeah.
for consultation.
Pretty much the month of April
Yep,
is
and-
the consultation. So all the information will be shared with our whole community
Yep.
for them to provide feedback and thoughts and input.
I think you made an awesome point around Te Aka, because one of the things, Mara, is that we're right up the front alongside the council, making decisions and being part of that decision making, and so that's where you're going with this. I think that mana whenua is up front with the decision making and inside the process. So.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll ask for a mover and seconder for the information paper, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, Evie. Thank you, Kirk. Did anyone wish to make any further comments or speak to? No? Okay, so I'll put that, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Fabulous, thank you very much. Really
Bye-bye.
comprehensive update, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up, we have local water done well progress update. I invite Andrew up the front to present to us. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, kia ora koutou. Ko Andrew Lebiota Taka Ingoa. I am the Manager of Water Reforms Transition here at Napier City Council. So really just wanted to give a quick general update of our progress with local water done well. Now, admittedly, when this report was authored earlier in the year, was anticipating a bit more progress would have been made. Late in December, some further announcements came through from local government funding agency, which has some implications on the financial modeling that's being done around the options open to council for our delivery models. So there has been a slight delay in some of the progress of our work. So some things that have happened since my last update to committee has been the release of Bill 3. That was the final piece of legislation around the local water done well policy. And that bill really sets what they call the enduring settings of how water service providers will and are meant to act into the future. It's a very comprehensive bill, and it has some very structured legislation around organizational settings, around establishment of new, what they are now calling water organizations. Previously, the terminology or the language has been around council-controlled organizations, multi-council controlled organizations, or essentially a CCO. In this third bill, there's actually some really stark differences between what a CCO is classified under the Local Government Act and what a CCO would be under the Bill 3 of the Water Services Act. It actually allows for a little more control from councils. So all of this is kind of now being digested, trying to be fully understood to impart what options we will go to community for consultation. So regionally, the work with the business case is still progressing. That's being conducted by the Regional Recovery Agency. They have PwC engaged as the consultants doing that work. And then in-house as well, we have our own financial team looking at different options as well. But again, with the latest update from LGFA, we've had to amend our model to take into consideration some of their new metrics, because it really does affect affordability to our community. It affects what we'd be looking to collect for revenue. And as Stephen alluded to in his paper, where we're at right now is quite a generational conversation, I think, around water service delivery, and the decision that we'll be making and going out for consultation will affect the community for years to come. I guess the main issue around all of that is we are operate in a very truncated time frame set by central government. All councils across New Zealand are meant to deliver a water service delivery plan by the 3rd of September. That plan is to identify how you anticipate to deliver water services. The three options that we are mainly investigating is an in-house business unit, so very similar to our current delivery model. New legislative requirements will have us ring fence all of that revenue and financing, so Three Waters has to be its own pocket of money. The second option would be a Napier-only water organization, or that CCO model, and then the joint option with that business case to support it, which is being done by the Regional Recovery Agency at the moment. I included a high-level time frame of when key milestones were going to be. Again, this was before we've understood those latest announcements, so there might be a bit of a shift in this time frame. We're working through that right now. But ideally, the business case will be finalized in the next fortnight or so. We'll be workshopping those findings with elected members with the aim to go out to community consultation, aligning consultation actually with the annual plan process, just for some efficiency and hopefully really capture the attention of our community for the month of April, with then making a final decision on what the future of water services delivery for our community will look like in June. Again, in the context of this report for the significance and engagement, nothing related to this report, but in the context of local water done well, it's obviously quite significant, requiring a high level of engagement and consultation with our community. Yeah, I guess in summary, it's a very complex issue with continually moving goalposts as new legislation is released. We're working in a world of imperfect knowledge. Bill 3 was introduced in December. It still has to go through select committee. It still has to go through submission process. And so that bill could actually change. So we're trying to set ourselves up for legislation that hasn't been enacted yet, and that is actually still subject to further amendments as we progress through this. So we've just been as dynamic as possible to adjust and react, but still try to meet those timelines that were legislated to by central government. But happy to take any questions from the committee.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'll open up for any questions.
Kia ora, Andrew. To the chair, sorry. Where is your cultural component in this?
Within this context, what we've really done was base all of our regional work on the previous work that was done by Morse & Lowe from 2020 until 2022, realizing that a lot of work had been done with Mānukanuka partners over that. So the understanding was, when we were going through the modeling criteria, the assessment, we were taking those principles that were developed through that process and applying them to here. Regionally as well, there was the Regional Collaboration Day in Wairoa, which brought councils Mānukanuka together. We've workshopped with committee here back in November, and just trying to keep you as updated as possible. But in terms, I think, guiding principles is we've taken everything that we've applied to the previous regional modeling or regional business case and validated those principles and are testing the current models to that.
And can you pinpoint some of the major things that has come back from our culture? It's just before it goes out to consultation. Once it goes out to consultation, then we haven't got that discussion point,
Yep.
those discussion points.
Yep, I think, again, from that previous report, a meaningful role for Māori, giving effect to Te Mana o Te Wai. And those, what we'd be looking at to enable is, in the new operating models within that governance structure and within that board, is having some sort of Heo Māori competency component to then guide how a water organization would operate into the future.
Can I suggest, Andrew, that we actually source some of those historical documents
Yep.
to share with the
Absolutely.
committee? Because It actually dates right back to 2018 when we, well before the central government started their process of a national-led change to water services delivery, Hawke's Bay had been looking at developing our own model. And it was right at the very start of that journey that we worked with mana whenua to actually establish those guiding principles. So if we could have a bit of a hunt and see what we could find, I think it would be really valuable to share that with all Te Committee members.
That would be helpful, thank you.
Okay. Any further patai?
Kia ora. Kia ora. Just a question, with the new housing developments that are happening at Emerald Hills, Te Awa and Mana Ahuriri, is there going to be enough water for all those hundreds of new houses?
I can answer if you like, Andrew. So the management of our water consumption is definitely an ongoing challenge for councils. And with all of our planning around growth, as Mara mentioned earlier, the future development strategy, which is all about identifying those areas where it is appropriate and safe and the best places to build new homes for our whānau. And a part of any new development is ensuring that we have the appropriate water infrastructure, so the right types of pipes, the right type of protections and stormwater, and that we are delivering enough water for the houses that are being built. So that is one part of it, and council will never ever sign off on a new development without having the confidence that we are able to provide the water for that new community. The other side of it is that here in Ahuriri Napier, we actually have probably the highest water consumption in the country. So we have, I think, as a community, over the years had this belief that our aquifers were limitless. We now know that is absolutely not correct. And I think, just as an example, through the summer months, our water consumption per household is about 3 times the national average. And so another part of the role that we have as council to play is to actually work with our community and get them to understand that it's important that they can't just keep taking water. They have a responsibility as well to manage their own water usage and you know, protect this precious taonga that we're all responsible for. So they're the two elements, and that is what we as council will be working very hard on to ensure that, yes, there is water for everybody.
So would it be appropriate to maybe introduce water meters for all these surplus water users, residents?
I suspect that water meters will become mandatory throughout the country in the not too distant future. And at the end of the day, water meters is the most effective tool to ensure that people are conscious and monitoring their water usage. And it means the people that are using the water are paying for the water, which is a fair way when we are trying to protect our water and manage it in the best way possible. So I suspect that when we have the new water entities in place, I would not be surprised if there was a directive from central government, in fact, that the introduction of water meters becomes mandatory throughout the country.
Yeah, just we went on on mana whenua, we went up to the Mission Hills and looked at the reservoir, and there's going to be a new reservoir built up there somewhere, but Tipene identified a site of significance on Mission Hills, so we brought that to the attention of the nice council person who took us up there. So back to Evelyn's, you know, the council's now aware of that site.
Good. Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, and so I guess with the water comes the waste removal. Where does all the waste go for? Where would all the waste go for all those houses on, you know, rubbish?
Okay, so in terms of refuse,
where does it all go?
And so again, that is something that we have to factor into all of our growth planning to ensure that we have capacity within our landfills, and that we are educating our community on recycling to ensure that we are actually ensuring as much as possible is recycled rather than it ending up in our landfill. So it's all very complex, and there's so many different facets that we as council have to take into consideration when we are planning for growth in our city. The flip side of it is we are actually, again, directed by central government that we must plan for growth. They've given us figures, it's in the vicinity of 6,500 houses that we must provide over the next 30 years. Again, that's part of the financial development strategy. So we don't actually have the ability to turn around and say, no, we're not providing any more housing. We know our community needs more housing, so it's really just about ensuring that we've got very, very robust processes in place with our planning so that we do have the infrastructure and the services that are required to meet the needs of those new homes.
Where does the landfill? Where's the Napier landfill?
So we are part of the Amaranui landfill. It's shared with Hastings.
Okay. Oh, the one that we can smell when the wind's blowing.
I think you probably
at Motil, we can smell it. I tell you now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for the questions.
Yeah, just one more thing that is a thing for me is the sales of water. How are we controlling that now? There's so many, thousands and thousands of litres a day are shipped off overseas from the water and from here, and we have to pay for it at the end of the day through water restrictions and all of that. And we know that our aquifers depleting, and yet still our water's going offshore. So have we got any changes in that have been set in place to manage this?
Okay, so the sale of waters and the consenting process for the sale of water to overseas organisations is part of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council mandate. Napier City Council doesn't have any involvement in that, and Hawke's Bay Regional Council is obviously governed by central government law. I don't know if there is any changes proposed around that, but certainly at a local level, in terms of our overall water security and water management, we know that changes have to be made, and we would be advocating to the regional council as part of that process that any of those sort of overseas consumers of our water have to be part of finding a solution. So we could actually, as an action, Gemma, could we just ask for some further information from the Hawke's Bay Regional Council regarding that particular issue, which we can share with the committee?
Because it's unfair to the councils, because it complicates matters. You've got to manage the three waters, and yet regional council are still denying responsibility for these things, and they're putting it all onto the ratepayers. So we have to wear it either way. So if we want to manage something or target anything, we'll go to the council, district council or city council. We go to them. They all say it's got nothing to do with them. You've got to go to regional council. So go to regional council. Oh, no, we only look after this part, but we don't go over to that part, which complicates us. At the end of the day, we are still restricted with our waters, and we're still paying for it, whether it be by meters, whether it be by rates, however, which way it is, we are still at the brunt of it. And we still got no water. So that's something that I think really the councils need to sort, between each other. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Any further questions? No? Okay. Could I have a mover and seconder for the information paper, please? Thank you, Whai Beverly, and thank you, Whai Maureen. Did anyone have any further comments they'd like to make? Right, so I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Andrew. Now the exciting paper of the day, which, Morigo, are you presenting this paper for us?
Yes, I am, Your Worship.
Cool.
Hoino.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just want to acknowledge that I have a conflict of interest here.
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Tēnā tātou. I'd like to put the paper in front as been read. And it's the endorsement of appointing our kaumātua, Tō Tātānei Pāpā Matuiru, and also Beverly Harmer-Kemp, who we just know, as our kaumātua of our council. It's been a whole year since we've had the passing of our previous kaumātua, Piri Prentice, and we've only had a kaumātua, but we've always wanted to have a dual role, a Māori kura whatukura. So we've now got the opportunity. So I'd like to put that paper in front as to be endorsed.
Lovely.
Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, open up for any questions.
Oh, kia ora. I would just like to say that, as always, with Māori organisations, you have male, female is good in any leadership role. They complement each other. So, kia ora.
Kia ora.
No comments, but I'm happy to move it.
Happy to move?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Evelinda. We have a seconder. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate that. Are there any further comments from around the committee? No, I will put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Excellent, yay! Yeah, so I just do want to say I am absolutely honoured and thrilled to have the two of you as our council kaumātua and kuia, and I'm looking forward to having you work alongside me and support me in my role, and Louise as Chief Executive, and I think that it just adds further strength to us as a council to have the two of you as part of our leadership. So ngā mihi nui for accepting the role. So. Right, we're on to our updates from council representatives, and I will start from my left-hand side with Cheyenne, and then we will work our way around the table.
Morena, Madam
Morena.
Chair. At Pitane Marae, we are currently tracking along, actually speedingly well. Our major priorities this year, or this side of the year, are to keep our hapu informed, keep our members informed, as we obviously navigate some big decisions that need to be made entity-wise, but at the forefront forecasting for the redevelopment and relocation of our marae. So it's going to be a busy year ahead for us. We're still to set a space to do some forward planning, but we're just excited and continue the support from council, from our other marae, and of course our kaumātua here that are around the table. So we're in a good space, but definitely keeping our whānau close, keeping them informed and taking them on the journey.
Kia ora. Probably not a lot to update, Keith, but did you want
No, we're just starting to get into action. You've had a rundown on water, which is obviously a big part of ours, and we're fixing bumps and roads. A lot of work in that. But we're just starting to get into action, really.
Hello. Hi, Beverly.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou. From Whararangi Marae, it's been a busy year. We've had many visitors come through the Waharua, and especially during the December, when we had quite a big 3 losses of our whānau. And what it highlights for us as a committee is that our kitchen's very small. Our facility is very small, and so we're wanting, the future is we're wanting to extend and make it big, because you can't even fling a cat in our kitchen. And so that's what it's highlighted when we've had all these manuhiri come through our door. So we're working towards that as a committee. We're working towards fundraising and doing all that for our whānau and making it a bigger space. And it also takes away the usage of tarps, of tents, and all of that as well. And because that's another mahi, it's a really huge mahi, and it brings quite a bit of people and money spent as well, you know, buying all those things in. And so it takes away all of that when we start to look at our facility and how best we can improve it for future. And I just want to, you know, mention Pat Parsons' tangi that highlighted as well, because what it brought together, though, for us as a marae, it brought all our people together, actually. It brought all our maraes together, working towards this, because Pat was such a significant historian, you know, through many, many years of doing whakapapa with our tipuna, with our, all that mahi. And so it showed our manaakitanga through all our marae. It showed that on that particular tangihana. So, yeah, we're very grateful. We're very humbled to see that all our people do and can come together, you know, at a drop of a hat. So, yeah, so ngā mihi, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, committee. So my directorate is called Future Napier Committee, which looks after the regulatory functions of council primarily. So this year we've got quite a big work program with a number of bylaw reviews in the mix. So we have our fire control bylaw, which is currently being disestablished in favour of some of the legislative changes at central government, moving to FEN's responsibility. So we're working through that. We also have our gambling venues policy review, so that bylaw coming up, and also our freedom camping bylaw, which is currently being out for submissions. So there's a program of work around bylaw reviews, and we also have quite a large, and you've possibly seen, ongoing piece of work around our district plan review. So that's been in the mix for a number of years, and we're currently in the middle of our hearings for that. So our hearings committee is meeting, and we have independent commissioners on that as well, where we're hearing all of the different chapters of our district plan. The district plan is the tool in which we set all the rules for activities within the city, including development standards and things like that. So quite a big program of regulatory work coming up this year. And on top of that, we have some other pieces of work around implementing a project or a EPMO, which is how we manage our projects internally as well. So yeah, quite a lot happening in Future Napier. Thank you, Your Worship.
Kia ora. Darren.
Kia ora. Just bring it. There we go.
Yep.
The opening of our whare manaki, Te Hongia o Hukawera, many, many years in the making, and we've had ongoing bookings since opening. The 200-year commemoration and wānanga of Te Paka ki Pā, held at Waihoki Marae. Awesome and amazing event. Hawke's Bay Regional Council have started on the stop bank works, and mana whenua are working closely with the contractors. Recovery operations are doing an amazing job working with our whānau that still needs mahi on their properties. And that's probably all at the moment.
Kia ora. Plenty. Plenty going on. Maureen.
Kia ora. Mōtio. We're still waiting for confirmation of our funding for our kitchen appliances. That would happen in March. We now have to remove the asbestos off our wharenui, so that's another bit of a delay. We had funding from the Cyclone Trust, I think the one Barbara Arnott's involved with, and so from that trust we were able to, we're just waiting for delivery of our new bus shelter for our tamariki, so we're quite excited. And because it's kind of see-through like the ones in town, the traffic that goes past it, it's a 50 mile an hour, so kilometre. And since Cyclone, there's been an increase in traffic, so it'll be more, safe, more safer for them. And also we had funding for a container and contents to support our urupa. It'll have, you know, shovels and grave digging stuff and maintenance. And also we had funding for some water tanks just for emergency water. It gets very dry out there in the summer, so these tanks will probably be at Timikara, which is the end where most of the people live. So we put it there, and that's just as extra emergency water in case. Yeah, the bridge, I believe, is on track and might be open end of June. So that's exciting. And yeah, whānau did a bird survey looking for dotterels and pied, whatever those birds are called, the black and white ones, looking for eggs, and they found baby ones. So yeah, so that's really good. So yeah, kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Just at Timikara, yeah, we're the same, like Auntie Bev says. We probably need to open up our whare kai too before we can probably think about putting our marae up. That'll be there in all good time, but we just, I suppose, just trying to do the little things right first before we can start on that. And also, we've got some lament or waiata that we need to learn, and our younger generation won't learn them if we don't learn them. So we've just got, yeah, it's basically once a month really where we will catch up. You know, we got karanga, we can't keep relying on Auntie Bev all the time, you know, we just got to, you know, practice and practice. Doesn't matter what you sound like, doesn't matter how it sounds, just as long as it's been done, I suppose, and over in time it'll come around. And the wahine are usually good at singing anyway, so it's usually, you know, they have that ability and probably just need that belief, I suppose, and that support. But other than that, we're just tracking along good. On the Hira-Taonga district side, nah, we should be under Napier, maybe Ahuriri. That's another mission anyway, I suppose. Yeah. Kia ora tātou. Koe
Kia ora. Yes, it's an interesting one that all of our marae are actually in the Hastings territorial area. Hi, Evelyn.
Kia ora. Likewise, mostly everybody, mana ahuriri get back into the throes of things. So I wasn't at our meeting last night, so I can't give you a full update. But I can tell you that we continue to get involved with community activities, and our management group are very active in keeping in things. So the last ones that, you know, like, I think the last celebrations through the Christmas period, there's a lot happened, and a lot went on. You know, with the celebrations of Pakake and supporting the marae, the opening of Waiohaki, getting involved with that, and we still continue on supporting our local marae in different venues. And we're currently in the throes of bringing on another worker for our commercial business for our MALP. So that's coming along. So very shortly we might have a new director. But I'm sure that there's a whole lot of other things that are going to come up too. We've got Waitangi Day coming up. We've got all of these activities coming up. So mana ahuriri will continue on being a part of that, and our relationships between councils is ongoing. And as you heard from many of these other things, that we're always involved in those communications and those conversations between Regional Council and Napier District, Napier City Council, even with the Hastings District Council as well. So, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Can I just add, sorry, to Evelyn's, and supportive of Evelyn in terms of mana ahuriri. Very shortly they will be launching their Te Muri Wai o Te Whanga strategy, which is huge because it's legislative. Inside the settlement, so that's huge for mana ahuriri at this time. And it's taken them quite a few years to get to this point. So I just want to mihi to Evelyn and the team for ensuring that we have this Te Muri Wai o Te Whanga document and strategy.
And just to further on from that, we've also got our kahui pakaki, which Uncle Matt will probably give a little thing on what's happening, and in close association with Bev, been instrumental in a lot of things, looking after our pakake. Fantastic. So hoa te taraka ki a koe. Maunga haruru tangi tū.
Kia ora. We haven't had our first board meeting for 2025 yet, but it's fair to say that a lot of our orientation is post-cyclone out at Tangoil. So our chair's doing a lot of joint work with the Tangoil Marae Committee around the relocation options, to be able to look at the options as to where the marae will go and to take those to the hapu. So that's obviously chewing up lots of time trying to get that sorted. Lots of pressure on us both as the marae and MTT by our kaumātua who want to see their marae back again, obviously. We've been doing work at the urupai out there, just at the marae entrance, cleaning up a very old part of the urupa, which people are noticing now on State Highway 2. It's very old, lots of graves from the 1880s and going back, so trying to work on restoration out there. For Maungaharuru, lots of our assets are more up towards Tutira Way, so it was also cyclone affected, so our Manutaiko team are still working with our tenants, lessees, to look at that. And we've also, as a board, agreed to employ staff to have a greater focus on whānau, particularly whānau impacted from the cyclone with housing. So the cabins by the airport, those who've been displaced, those who need to be relocated, those who are in temporary housing, to just place a greater emphasis on housing, getting secure housing for whānau. And if anything, the cyclone brought about for us a kind of reality that we really didn't know, where most of our beneficiaries, how they're living and who needs help and who didn't have housing and all that kind of stuff. I guess the one downer of the cyclone recovery process is that resources are only for those who are cyclone impacted, not for those who weren't without housing before the cyclone. So our whole housing focus is really just supporting whānau, working with mana ahuriri around their housing aspirations and being supportive of that. So that's probably our big focus, is housing, good asset management, and supporting the marae with the relocation. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Whātua mai.
Tēnā tātai, ne? Me pēnei te kōrero te kura o ahuriri. Tēnā koe. Huri noa ki a tātou e tau nei te kōtau tautoko ke ko māo ko bēwhai kaumātua mō kōtau hai hikoi o kōtau tā tēnā kōtau. Kōtau nā marae. Mihia kana. What I've referred to te kura o ahuriri, I pinched the word from Horona Mare Kura, the jewel of ahuriri. No, don't, but thank you for, you know, and my phone most probably will stop ringing now. That I got a job to walk with you and walk with the council. I get phone calls all the time, and I'm supposed to be retired. I think I'll go back to Ura weathers than hide away. But it's great to be here to listen to different maraes, how they're getting on. and, you know, and have a look where we can help too. You know, for me, is sharing everything, especially for me, being brought up in Māori and walked Māori, and I learned different things. When I came to this side of me, I had to go work. But it's great to be here now to walk beside our youth and our young leaders for tomorrow. Nā reira, konei tāku e haramani ki konei, you know, sharing our culture with you and get a better understanding of it. You know, that's what it's all about for me. You know, we got to work together no matter what the situation is. You know, we'll get through it in the end. The problem's not going to go away, so you got to work through it. How? You got to work away. Nā reira, kia ora tātai.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
And finally, Hau Whakaari update.
Cool. Tēnā tātai. He tautoko nā mihi atu ki a koe, Beverly, mihi atu ki a rātou ngā mate. Kia rātou he wehe atu atu wā kāinga o tātou nei tipuna. Taiho atu ki Pat Parsons. Ko ia te tangata kōrere o takitaki i o tātou ngā tupuna. Mona whakapapa, kia rātou mā, haere atu rā. The team started this year hitting the road running. I don't think we've had time to actually have a breather. One of the many of the projects are on our table. One you've heard this morning, and also a reference to Te Aka. Hillary's really busy with Te Aka, also the Waka Hub, and also the Emerson Street projects that we've got going. We've started our kapahakas, started back up again, and last week we had a whakatau here for kaupapa, and our worship herself stood in line with us, and it sounded sweet. You know, so we're full running with that. Māori Wards is on the agenda for this year. The elections obviously is on the, and as a team we need to how we move around that. So that's quite going to be an interesting kaupapa moving forward. And it's also about getting our people to stand, to vote, to register, but who is actually going to stand for Māori Wards, and that's a big thing right now that we need to really push ourselves onto. There's a lot of things on our plate right now, and also we also are doing our work map. I'm doing our roadmap for the year. We're already putting in place the event for Matariki, which was last year, our first one that we had in town here, which was a great event, and we're just looking at extending that, making it, how do we make it better? And so that's Matariki, into Wiki o Te Reo. Next week we've got Waitangi Day. So there's a lot on our plates, and also a lot of the other kaupapa that has been said today. There's actually a congratulations I'd like to say, and she's very humbled that she hasn't done it, but last night we had our inaugural Kahungunu Mātauranga Awards ceremony, and our one and only Whaia Evelyn received the Tipuarea Te Aroha Award. And so big congratulations. So mai te paki today. It was a beautiful event, and we had even our, we'll claim her, Madame Pittman, she lives here in Napier, so we'll claim her even though she's from Whakaki, but it was actually a beautiful event to have last night, and a lot of that's starting to happen now, so, yeah.
Can I just say something? E mihi ana kia tātou. Just in terms, and because he's gone out of the room too, just want to put a disclosure in there for Uncle. Because he is of a age now, and his daughter is very concerned about his health.
Okay.
So that is going to be one of my role to monitor that, to ensure that he's healthy and fit for what are the events that we do have to go to. So that's a really good, it really concerns from her his daughter. So you don't want to meet his daughter. Yeah. So yes, I just want to put that disclosure in while he's out of the room, because I know he'll want to do everything for everyone, and we just can't, and we won't. So I just want to make sure that you know now that if he's not there, it's because of his health.
Kia ora. Thank you
because he
for
doesn't want to
sharing,
be, because he will want to be.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, and we will all ensure that we support him as best that we can. And keep an eye on him and make sure he's not overdoing it. So, ka pai. So that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. I do just want to again acknowledge all of you and thank you for the roles that you play to help and support us as Napier City Council in our community. We could not do it without you. We have got a very, very busy year ahead of us. The papers we've had presented to us today, we've got, of course, as Morehu mentioned, local government elections and the Māori wards referendum, which we really want to work closely with yourselves to ensure that we get some really good candidates for our Māori wards, that we get a really good voter turnout, and that we have a good local government elections. We've got a lot of government reforms coming through the pipeline as well, which we will be keeping you as updated on as we possibly can. A lot of legislative changes coming through, a lot of directives from central government telling us that we have to do things in a different way, which will, I'm sure, be very challenging at times. So we will ensure that you are part of that kaupapa and part of that journey as well. So I guess wishing all of us all the very best for the year ahead of us.
That's right. Thank you.
Ngā mihi. And I now will ask Uncle Matt if you would please close us with a karakia.
Nō reira māt Māori a te atu e kore nei tae te whakaro e teki o tātou nākau o tātou i nena. Nō reira kia mau ki au ki a tātou te mana ki a te atu a kāharawa, a te matua, a te tama, a te wairua tapu, ai nei a ke tōna atu. Amen.
Amen.
Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora.